Guidance in reading the California Vehicle Code. Now, California statutes are contained in 29 separate codes, and the 27th alphabetically is the Vehicle Code. And all 29 codes have some general provisions applicable to reading and interpreting that code's sections. So the following are some selected general provisions of the California Vehicle Code. Section 1 says that the act is known as the Vehicle Code. Section 2 says the provisions of this code, insofar as they're substantially the same as existing provisions relating to the same subject matter, are to be construed as restatements and continuations and not as new enactments. Section 5 says if any portion of this code is held unconstitutional, then the decision does not affect the validity of any other provision of this code. Section 6 says that these general provisions and rules of construction govern the construction of the vehicle code. Section 7 says division, chapter, and article headings do not in any manner affect the scope, meaning, or intent of the provisions of this code. Section 8 says whenever by the provisions of this code a power is granted to a public officer or a duty imposed upon a public officer, then the power may be exercised or the duty performed by a deputy of that officer. Section 9 says whenever any notice, report, statement, or record is required by this code, then it must be made in writing in the English language. Section 10 says whenever any reference is made to any portion of this code, the reference applies to all amendments and additions made. Section 12 says the present tense includes the past and future tenses, and the future tense includes the present. Section 12.2 defines the term spouse to include a registered domestic partner. Section 13 says the masculine gender includes the feminine and neuter. Section 14, the singular number includes the plural and the plural the singular. Section 15 says the term shall is mandatory and the term may is permissive. Section 16 defines oath to include an affirmation. Section 19 says whenever the acknowledgement of any document required by this code or any regulation, the signature of the applicant attested to in his or her presence by the signature of a subscribing witness is deemed to be sufficient in that regard. Section 21 says the provisions of this code are applicable and uniform throughout the state and in all counties and municipalities, and a local authority must not enact or enforce any ordinance or resolution on the matters covered by this code, including ordinances or resolutions that establish regulations or procedures for or assess a fine, penalty, or fee for a violation of matters covered by this code. Section 22 says whenever notice is required to be given under the code by a department or any division or officer, the notice must be given either by personal delivery by the person or to the person to be notified, by certified mail return receipt requested, or by mailing the notice postage prepaid addressed to the person at his or her address as shown by the records of the department. Section 23, the giving of notice by personal delivery is complete upon delivery of a copy of the notice to the person to be notified. Section 30 says it is declared as a matter of legislative policy that red lights and sirens on vehicles should be restricted to authorized emergency vehicles engaged in police, fire, and life-saving services, and that other types of vehicles which are engaged in activities which create special hazards upon the highways should be equipped with flashing amber warning lamps. And finally, there's section 31 that says no person can give either orally or in writing information to a peace officer while in the performance of his or her duties under the provisions of this code when such person knows that the information is false.